I was just about to head out and go fishing, but I saw an article and I realized it's time for another daily dose of the Fani update. Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and I wanted to go out fishing. I'm still gonna go out fishing after I shoot this vlog, but I came across an article and I'm like, holy crab apples, this requires a Fani update. From AJC, which is the Atlanta Journal of something or other, AJC Politics. PGAM, what the heck is Trump trial judge McAfee gets bipartisan backing for election bid. Your daily jolt of news and analysis from the AJC Politics team. And there you have a nice picture of Judge Scott McAfee on the bench looking all intellectual and stuff. Now this article seems to be relatively innocuous until you stop and think about it for exactly 30 seconds.
12 seconds later.
It's not often Republican Governor Brian Kemp and former Democratic Governor Roy Barnes unite, but the two have found a common cause over Fulton Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee. The two men were the star guests at a Thursday fundraiser for McAfee that raised more than $40,000 for his election campaign. The judicial seat will be on the May 21st ballot. What's up?
Can I go on the street?
Is anyone out there?
Oh, shut up.
Go see who's out there. So the Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who some people think might not be quite that Republican, and the former Democrat Governor Roy Barnes. Now notice the article says former Democrat governor. He's the Democrat former governor. They've teamed up and united behind Scott McAfee to raise him over $40,000. What a beautiful thing, seeing Democrats and Republicans unite behind a common judge. The judge, who presides over former President Donald Trump's election interference case, faces a challenge from civil rights attorney Robert Patillo. His other opponent, Tiffany Johnson, was disqualified by an administrative law judge. Now, you might remember Robert Patillo from such long-format interviews as the one he just did with me on Viva Frei. He seems like a very nice guy, even though I disagree with him on a lot of politics.
I presume you have to be against the gag orders against Trump.
I think when we're talking about our system, when we're talking about fairness, what does the Constitution guarantee? It guarantees due process. Due process means what? Notice, that you are notified of what the charges are against you, and hearings, that you have an opportunity to contest those charges going forward. I think President Trump has been given every opportunity required by due process. He will have his day in court. If he is innocent, I am confident that he will be found not guilty and that he will be able to proceed with his life. If he is guilty, I believe that the voters of the state of Georgia and the citizens of that state deserve every piece of justice that the Constitution and the laws of the state of Georgia require thereof. Our system is put in place in order to give every individual the opportunity to contest the charge against them and fight as strongly and as vehemently as possible, and I encourage all defendants to do so. I support trials. I want people to actually come to a resolution and not simply try to plea cases out, and I look forward to seeing this case go to trial and the proper answer to be put forward.
Well, I mean, you say that people have the right to a defense. They also have the right to not be maliciously prosecuted. You say they have, you're confident in the system, but this is also the very same system that we're talking about is horribly corrupt in Georgia that lets people get eaten by bed bugs in prison. And now you're just relying on the non-corruption of that very system when politics might be more of a toxic force than racial prejudice at the time. I mean, some people might say what you're saying right now is exactly what many folk back in the 50s would have said. Well, if he's wrongly accused of rape, he'll be acquitted in certain rural areas. I'm going to the racial side on this. We're like, hey, just accuse a black man of something, and if he's innocent, he'll get a fair trial. I mean, in that day and age, it would have been a laughable thing to say then, and I think it's equally laughable to suggest now that in New York, having seen what we've seen, in DC, having seen what we've seen, that that Donald Trump can get anything more of a fair trial than a black man in Alabama in the 30s could get a fair trial. Well, if he's accused, he'll get a fair trial. I mean, I think it's outlandish, and that's where I think people are going to question judgment to say, well, he'll get his day in court, except now he's getting 6 months in court or 6 weeks in court while running as a candidate, as if that's not already enough of an injustice.
But he was just on the channel. Set that aside. It seems now that you have the Republican Governor Kemp and the former Democrat Governor Roy Barnes helping Scott McAfee haul in $40,000 in his re-election bid. Do you all remember who the former Democrat Governor Roy Barnes is? Why, I think he testified in such hearings as the hearing seeking the disqualification of Fani Willis from that case, where Scott McAfee is the judge who decided not to disqualify Fani Willis from that case. And for those of you who may not remember what role Roy Barnes played in that Fani Willis disqualification hearing debacle, Fani Willis's theory of the case, or at least the argument presented by the state, was that Fani Willis didn't give any preferences to her boyfriend, Nathan Wade, the man who she was knocking boots with while she was paying him upwards of $1 million. She wasn't playing favorites by giving the mandate of special prosecutor to Nathan Wade because he wasn't her first choice. Roy Barnes was her alleged first choice.
Were you approached by the district attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, about being a special prosecutor?
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had a FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me, and because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told D.A. Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
Now, Roy Barnes' testimony wasn't devastating one way or the other. He came out and simply testified that Fani Willis tapped him as her first choice to be the special prosecutor in that case, but he declined because he's got mouths to feed. I suspect he declined because even he didn't want to take up that crappy case, that bullcrap RICO prosecution case against Donald Trump al. And that guy, Roy Barnes, who actually has a reputation to preserve, said, I am not going to destroy my reputation with this idiotic RICO prosecution against Donald Trump al. Leave that to your boyfriend, Nathan Wade, who doesn't have a reputation to destroy in the first place. Now, I'll be the first to admit I am putting out a bunch of dots out in the ether. Whether or not they are actually connected, that's up to you to decide, but I'm going to try to connect them just here and there. You've got Democrat former Governor Roy Barnes, who testified for and on behalf of Fani Willis, who's now attending a fundraiser raising $40,000 for Scott McAfee, who incomprehensibly, a judgment that made no sense within the four corners of his very judgment, declined to disqualify Fani Willis, but disqualified her boyfriend, Nathan Wade. The judgment made no sense. The odor of mendacity, the legal improper speech that Fani Willis gave in front of that church. Notwithstanding all of that, the judge did not disqualify Fani Willis, and lo and behold, the former Democrat governor, Roy Barnes, just helped Scott McAfee, who did not kick Fani Willis off that case, raise $40,000 in his re-election bid. Some people, some reasonable people, might put some dots together and might smell a whole hell of a lot of corruption, but wait, it gets even worse. You may or may not know that today in Georgia there was a state Senate hearing on investigations into potential mishandling of funds as relates to Fani Willis and whether or not there's any legislative reform that might be required in order to prevent future debacles like the one we just witnessed in that debacle of a Fani Willis disqualification hearing. If you're not familiar with that, here's a highlight. Georgia Senate holds special committee hearing for investigations of DA Fani Willis. The hearing is related to potential conflicts of interest and misuse of public funds. Atlanta. A third Georgia Senate hearing took place on Friday for a special committee's investigation of Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. The hearing is related to accusations of potential conflicts of interest and misuse of public funds. This meeting is to inform the committee to, quote, enact new or amend existing laws and or change state appropriations to restore public confidence in the criminal justice system, end quote.
Good evening, Faith. So the hearing, according to the Republican-led committee, is designed to inform lawmakers to create new laws or amend existing laws to, in their words, restore faith in the criminal justice system. In today's hearing, we heard from 3 witnesses, including the Fulton County CFO, the Fulton County Attorney, and Chairman Rob Pitts. For about 3 hours, the Senate panel gathered for the third time at the Georgia Capitol as they continue to investigate Fulton County DA Fani Willis and accusations of misuse of funds for the hiring of Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade for the prosecution of former President Donald Trump. Willis and Wade admitted to having a romantic relationship. Among those who testified today was Fulton County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts, who said he would support a potential law change for oversight of district attorney expenses. The panel is expected to produce a report at the end of its investigation that could feature proposed changes to state law for budgeting of district attorney offices. The panel's chairman, Senator Bill Cosworth, revealed they have invited Willis to their hearings, and if forced, they have plans to subpoena her.
And she's a key part of the investigation, and her viewpoints are valued by us. We need to hear what she has to say and her explanation and what she thinks the appropriate rules ought to be going forward, so we don't have this kind of scandal giving Georgia a black eye again in the future.
Willis appeared at a community event Friday morning ahead of the hearing, criticizing the panel's investigation.
Isn't it interesting when we got a bunch of African-American DAs, now we need Daddy to tell us what to do?
Just to summarize those dots again and to add one more to them, you have the Democrat former governor Roy Barnes assisting Scott McAfee, being one of the guests of honor where he raises $40,000 in his re-election campaign. Scott McAfee, who refused to disqualify Fani Willis after Roy Barnes testified basically for Fani Willis. Well, guess what? Roy Barnes is representing Fani Willis in that state Senate hearing that I just talked about. Viva Frei at the Viva Frei. Judge Scott McAfee held a fundraiser attended by Roy Barnes, which raised over $40,000 for McAfee. Roy Barnes was allegedly Fani Willis's first choice. Her first choice to accept the position of special prosecutor to prosecute Trump et al. This could cause some reasonable people to question whether or not politics had a role to play in Judge McAfee's incomprehensible and contradictory decision not to disqualify Fani. Or maybe I'm just connecting dots that aren't actually connected. Hashtag politics ruins everything. Get yours at www.vivafrei.com. To which Phil Holloway at Phil Holloway ESQ replies as follows. He also represents Fani Willis regarding the Georgia Senate investigation. He was present today in the hearing on her behalf. Perhaps it's just my tinfoil hat. Perhaps I'm connecting dots that aren't connected. Or perhaps if it walks like a corruption, if it quacks like a corruption, it probably is a corruption.
What?
Draw whatever conclusions you want to draw from this daily dose of the Fani, but at the very least, now you have the facts. You can come to whatever conclusions you want to. All that I know is, I know what I think, but I also know what I need to do. I need to go fishing. I need to get out there and catch a fish. People, if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Viva Frei, the Viva Frei on Twitter, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Exercise, eat healthy, talk to people in real life, and let me go catch a fish. Booyah. Booyah.